Hey, it's Marie Forleo, and you are watching Marie TV, the place to be to create a business and life you love. So I got a question for you. Have you ever struggled to create change in your life? Maybe around a birthday, you've said, you know what? This year is gonna be different. It really, really is. But then it becomes a sad repeat of the past. If you've ever struggled to create meaningful change in your life, my guest today is here to help. Todd Herman is the founder of The Peak Athlete, a peak performance coaching and research company working with hundreds of pro and Olympic athletes on the inner psychology of winning. Todd also consults with leading executives and business owners on leadership, sales, and communication. His corporate leadership programs are used by over 17 organizations globally and 3 governments reaching over 250,000 people. In 2010, he was awarded the world's greatest salesperson at the Cannes International Advertising Festival and has been featured on the Today Show, the Australian Today Show, Sky Business, the New York Times, and other media. Todd Herman.
Marie Forleo.
Thank you for being on Marie TV.
I'm so happy to be here.
So, I think you're amazing, and you and I have been friends for years. And, you know, one of the coolest things that you taught me, and this was a few years back, was on the biology of change. And it's this concept and these ideas that really have stuck with me. So I'm so excited to have you share that with everybody here today. So let's get right into it. What's happening on a cellular level when we try and create some kind of change, a new habit, learn a new skill, anything like that?
Well, there's a chemical cocktail of change that's happening inside of us, and it's working from the inside out. And anytime we're trying to break an old habit, embark on a new skill, or try to improve ourselves, generally, there's a biological process that's going on inside of us. And most people would tap into it as an emotional part of what's going on. And it's this part that trips people up. It's this misunderstanding of what's happening that prevents people from actually continuing on with the change. And actually, there's some great research that was done. And last year, the Nobel Prize in chemistry was awarded to two researchers on this very subject. And what's interesting to note about the cells, what's important to know, is that they are constantly receiving information and they're constantly replicating themselves. It's important to know this because this is actually what's happening when we're going through our process of change. So when we actually start on a process of embarking on a new skill or changing a bad habit or something like that, we're actually sending some positive juju through our body.
Yes.
So positive emotion. And they come in the form of hormones. Dopamine and serotonin would be the two main ones. Yep. But if our cells are used to being constantly bombarded with cortisol, because they're receivers of information, they're used to getting cortisol. Just like hungry little hippos, they just want to be fed anything. And if you're constantly feeding them cortisol, they'll accept it.
They want more of it.
They're going to get more of it. And they're going to send information up saying, hey, give me some more cortisol, give me some more stress.
Right.
So if you're wondering why you're always stressed out, it's not that you're a bad person, you're supposed to live that way. It's just what your cells are used to.
Interesting.
So when we stick with change, the replication of the cells that happens, if we're constantly giving them dopamine and endorphins, they're going to want more dopamine and endorphins when they replicate because the cells replicate based on the last information that happens to them.
Right. So tracking here. So we start to create a new habit. So let's say, for example, we're starting to exercise. So before our butts were on the couches, we're all stressed out all the time. All of a sudden we say, all right, I'm going to start working out. You start sending these new hormones, the dopamine and serotonin, and your cells start getting bombarded with some new hormones, right? Yeah. And they're shaking and they're replicating, and they want to start going in a new direction.
Yeah, they're vibrating away.
Yeah.
Because they're not used to getting this information, so they need to vibrate to accept it.
Right.
Because they need to change their receptor sites to allow in this new information.
Yes.
And it's this vibration that trips people up. This is the cause of what we would call self-sabotage and resistance many times in people. Because they interpret this, this doesn't really feel good, it doesn't feel right to me. And that's their own story that they're attaching to the cellular change that's happening. Now, you got to remember that those cells don't automatically always want the good stuff right away because there's still elements of the need for cortisol. So you are going to still get some stress going on in your body. But over time, if we just stick with it, that's why the greatest breakthroughs always happen when you're wanting to quit almost. And then around the next corner is this massive change that happens for us.
Yes.
Right. And it's this knowing part. When I've shared this with clients, and even when we talked about it for the first time, it was just people relax into it because now it explains so much of why sometimes we've quit when we've been doing something that was really positive, but just knowing that this is how we work.
Yes.
People can relax into the change more. It's like, you know what? Now I know what to expect. I'm not going to be positive forever because day 1, exercise is easy.
Yes.
Day 2, it's easy too. Day 3, a little bit of resistance kicking in because maybe we're a little bit achy.
Yep.
Day 4, maybe we don't want to go to the gym. And day 5, we just end up quitting on ourselves. But really, it's this, and the change was happening if we would have just stuck with it. Then, when our cells are used to all this dopamine and serotonin that's coming at it, they're going to be wanting what? More of that, which means that the activities that you're going to be choosing are going to lead you to be sending that information back down. Activities, the actions you take on your daily basis.
So it's almost like we have to stick through it to get through that transition period so that our
Absolutely.
cells have built those new receptors, want the dopamine, want the good stuff, and then they become hungry hippos for the good stuff. It's like,
Chomping
give me
away.
that juice.
You
Give me
betcha.
that juice.
And you're only going to be doing the things that give them the juice, which
Right.
is usually these new activities, new habits that you've done in your life.
Awesome. So really, what we're doing is misinterpreting some really good stuff that's happening inside of our body, especially when we're around that stage with resistance. And I think resistance is such an interesting topic. So let's dive a little bit deeper into that resistance.
Sure. So after all the work that I've done with professional athletes, amateur athletes, Olympic athletes, and executives as well, there's basically 2 categories of people that I've classed people in.
Yeah.
And there's owl brainers and wow brainers.
Ows and wows.
Ows and wows. Okay. And the difference between the two is this. Owl brain people, when they're faced with a challenge, some sort of obstacle, when they're going through, say, a process of change, will automatically start the dialogue or the story that they tell themselves. So they feel this sort of vibration that's going on, and then what they attach to it is, I'm not really feeling this. Oh, this isn't right for me. Why should I bother anyway? I've always been like this. Things like that. It's all wrapped around that type of story. And then when you're telling yourself that, of course you're going to end up quitting on it. And there's basically 3 categories of story that we wrap around it. There is this feeling of being stuck. There's this feeling of being bored. And then there's this need to feel safe, kind of retracting into ourselves.
Yes.
So it's like a comfort zone then.
Yes.
Right? So that's what people are stuck, they're bored, and they're safe. If you notice that that's what's happening in your life, you've fallen into this path of this owl brain.
And the owl brain, too, is kind of like, ow, that hurts. I want to step away. This isn't feeling right. This isn't feeling good.
Yeah.
Let me go retreat to my old habits. And if we can, before we go on to the wow brain, I've seen this so much in the programs that I teach because I see the 2 different people. And the folks that have the owl brain, the moment that they're trying a new framework in marketing.
Yeah.
Or they're trying to be more organized or trying to stick to a schedule. They're like, oh, I'm just not built like this. This isn't work for me. And that's amazing because I'll see this whole other track of people that respond to the same information in a different way.
Yeah.
And it's just extraordinary.
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
And we have an owl and a wow. It's not like we're just one thing.
Yeah.
It's segmented parts of our life.
Sure.
That, for me, it could be, the idea of me giving up chocolate cake, that's ow to me. So,
Yeah.
And you brought it up, the idea. So another word that's wrapped around is pain. It's a pain part of our brain. Ow is about pain.
Yes.
And the dialogue that happens and continues on with that is, maybe my friends will leave me as well if I continue on this, or my friends. Here's the reality. If you're going to build a business for yourself and you're going to become more successful, you're going to lose friends. You will.
Yeah.
I mean, I did.
Yep.
You probably did as well. You don't hang around with the same people anymore.
Sure.
But anyways.
Now let's talk about the wow brain.
Sure.
Yeah.
So wow brain people, when they're going through this resistance, is they're seeing things as more pleasurable. And it's, this is feeling really good. I can't wait to see what happens out of this. I wonder what opportunities are going to unfold for me because of this. Well, there's so many things that I'm learning and growing. I never would have expected this.
Right.
It's all about this
Wow.
sense of wow, exactly. Yeah. And then so 3 other categories that they revolve around is growth is one big thing. Confidence is another. And the other one is adventure. Now, what's really interesting so we had people that are going through the owl brain, they're dealing with feeling stuck, bored, and this feeling of safety, need for safety.
Right.
Growth, confidence, and adventure.
Yes.
For people that are, in the wow brain. But when you move those circles together, if growth, confidence, and adventure were all circles and we move them together, where growth and confidence overlap, then we get momentum. When we're growing and we feel good about our growth,
yes.
we get momentum. We're moving on things.
Yes.
Momentum is the exact opposite of feeling stuck. So
right.
And then when we have confidence and adventure coming together, now we have excitement in our life as well. And excitement is the exact opposite of feeling bored.
Right.
And then we have growth and adventure. And growth and adventure are all about transformation. When we go on an adventure and we grow from it, we transform and we're not safe. And in the center of it all is leadership. And when you take a look at your own brand, and I'm not doing this because I'm on ReTV and gonna give you a bunch of affirmations, but you take a look at your own brand, it has all those things going on. And if people just wrapped their lives more around this idea of just growing, getting more confidence from our growth, and learning to look at life with more of an adventurous spirit,
yes,
then change isn't so daunting. Plus with this knowledge of, you know what? This chemical cocktail that's going on is going to go on all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of tired of feeding those hungry hippos nothing but cortisol and stress.
Right. I love this. This is so fun. Every time I hear you talk about this, I really just get excited. Okay, so we've got the framework. We're starting to know this. Okay, we've got the owl brain and the wow brain, and we all have both, a little bit of both in our lives. Mm-hmm. So let's go on. So if we find ourselves in the position of being in ow, associating some kind of pain, pulling back, when we know the change that we want to make is really in our best interest, it's something that's really good for us and something ultimately we want, what are some practical steps that we can take to support ourselves to kind of move into more of that wow position?
Sure thing. So there's five prescriptions that I'd give people.
Cool.
One is you have to have a vision that's clear and very specific. Now, people have heard that before. It's not that it's something new and shiny object type of thing. But I'm not talking about this grand vision off into the future, but just if it's a very small change that we're trying to make, or if we're trying to break a habit, well, what does that look like specifically? What am I trying to change about myself? Or what's the new skill? Because if we take a look at growth and confidence and adventure, well, what's a skill that I can be, or what's a vision that I have about my growth that I can be growing in my business? Like, what is that? What's that look like for me? And very tangible it has to be.
I mean, I can give you an example and hope it can help illustrate this. I mean, I just did this 14-day detox with Josh.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't necessarily like I had this ultra clear vision of what it would look like, but it was a specific thing. It was like, okay, these 14 days, it was concrete. I understood there was a plan, there was a place I was going to get to, and I knew the kind of things I was going to eliminate on my path. So it made it so easy rather than this big grand vision of being like the perfect, healthy person forever.
Yeah.
It was specific, it was concrete, and it gave us something to work from.
So you used a keyword. You said path.
Yes.
The path is everything. You saw the path.
Yes.
There was no guessing and uncertainty, because uncertainty is the enemy to an owl brainer. If there's uncertainty, wow, are you going to get resistance and self-sabotage in your life then?
Right.
So just be specific and clear about what it is that you're trying to go after.
Awesome.
The second thing is to set trigger goals for yourself.
What's that mean?
So trigger goals are about the little micro changes that we need to be set up for ourselves in order to maybe accomplish the bigger goal. So a trigger goal for myself, if I'm trying to start a new exercise regimen, a trigger goal is, well, if I kind of pull the thread on that goal of going to the gym, what's one of the first actions I would even ever have to take in order to get to the gym? And it would be, 4 times this week, I'm going to get dressed up in my Lululemon gear.
Oh, Todd.
Very sassy. My Lululemon gear in my home.
Yes.
And because that's probably, just probability says that I'm more than likely going to take the next step, which is maybe walk out the door.
Yes.
So trigger goals would be, 5 times this week I'm going to get dressed up. And it's a complete opposite of what most people hear about goal setting. I want to find what is the behavioral action step that you can take. Because I know that if I can get you walking down that path, the likelihood of you getting to the gym is just that much more likely. And then the next goal on top of that would be, to open up the door 5 times this week with the mission of going to the gym. We're not even at the gym yet. And those are things that, we do when we accomplish it. There is a little dopamine dump that we get because we did achieve the thing that we set out that we were going to do.
It's almost building on like small wins. I can think about it in terms of productivity. I know for me, One of the biggest habits that I've developed that serves me so much, and I always recommend it, it's like end of day, take out my notebook, set up for the next day. Huge, simple trigger goal impacts my level of accomplishment, how I feel about myself, how rested I can be when I go to bed. Just doing that one simple, tiny action that cascades into incredible results in every part of my life.
And what's funny about that goal that you set for yourself is when I take a look at one of the hallmarks of a wow brainer, people who do achieve quite a bit, that's one of their things that they do is they are fantastic at planning out their tomorrow today.
I love it. It gets me high. Like I'm like, woo, I get so excited.
And think about it. It's just, for me, it's like this sense of excitement and expectancy now because I'm taking control of my day in the way, in not control in that I'm going to force things to happen, but there's an internal power that we get from that.
Oh, absolutely. And also a sense that, we know that we can't control so much of what happens. So to go in at least with a plan of like, okay, this is what's really important for me. So no matter what else happens, I got this to go in there with. It may not always work out, but at least I'm coming in prepared.
Yeah, exactly.
So cool.
So number 3 would be to set improvement goals.
Okay, what's that?
I'm not going to go on and on about there's 19 different types of goals you need to be setting, but improvement goals are really important as well. And improvement goals are all about numbers with a date attached to them.
Okay.
Because the great thing about photo albums is that we can see change in photo albums. It's like when I see myself when I'm 5, when I'm 15, I can see the visual change that's happening.
Sure.
But when people go on these, maybe when they sign up for one of your programs, if I don't set up an improvement goal for myself, then it's really hard for me to know and get feedback we want to create a feedback loop for myself of, is this improving and am I growing from this?
Yes.
So I can get more confidence, with my abilities and capabilities. So an improvement goal would be, for example, if it's working out again, I will improve the number of push-ups I can do consecutively from 5 to 15 by
X date,
6 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, whatever it is. Or, if it's someone is in a sales type role, I will improve the number of successful calls that I make to prospects from 3 per day to 6 per day by date.
Yes.
Because then I can put that on a plot chart and I can see it go up or I can see it go down. And then the feedback loop says, oh, no wonder my sales are dropping because I'm not doing that one little activity. I don't need to beat myself up over it. It's just an improvement goal.
Yes. And it's, it's that classic old phrase, right? Anything measured improves, anything measured and reported improves exponentially.
Exactly.
And, again, I'll go back to this detox I was doing. It's related, but I drew 10 little glasses on my one sheet of paper every day because that was what I needed to do, is to have 10 full glasses of whatever every day. And I got such a high out of like ticking those little babies off.
Yeah.
It just feels good. But now I have a record, as you say, of exactly what I did. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah. And there's this whole movement in the online space too of something called growth hacking.
Is that related to like quantified self?
Growth hacking is all about finding little micro changes in the conversion on your page that maybe it's 1% improvement.
Yes.
1% on that page plus 1% on the next page plus 1% on the next page increases to 10% actually overall.
Yes.
And that's what, I'm trying to growth hack performance for professional athletes or growth hack performance for executives or an entire team of people.
Sure.
And it's just micro changes. And the great thing about it, it doesn't scare the limbic part of our brain that's all about fight, flight, freeze, and things like that. Just we're looking for micro changes. So set improvement goals for ourselves.
Awesome.
Yeah. The 4th one is to gather a tribe around yourself.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. And a tribe can look many different ways.
Sure.
It could be a coach or a mentor. It could be a friend who's already gone through what you're hoping to go through and can be a bit of a coach for you. It can be an online community. That's the great thing about the internet now is there's all these micro niches that are everywhere that have interests that that I'm shocked at sometimes, but they're there to help out. There's tons of helpful people that are there to, gather around you and, cheer you on. And then if you start reporting people your improvement goals and your trigger goals and things like that, you start to end up, people go, wow, you think differently than me. And now you can actually get to that place where we all want to get to. It's a natural part of the human experience, which is to share with other people. That's what the hero's journey is all about, is we go on this journey and then Luke Skywalker comes back with the magical elixir and he can help save other people.
Yeah.
And when we go through and we actually complete the change that we're trying to go on, now we have data, we've got experience, and then we become so much more valuable to the people around us.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about my favorite one, which is script your setbacks. I love this. Tell us what that means.
Exactly. Anytime we're going through change, there's always going to be moments that are going to challenge the change that we're trying to go through.
Yes.
And whether it's breaking bad habits or whether it's trying to start a new skill. Scripting your setbacks is, I also call it the positive power of negative preparation. And scripting setbacks is all about, what am I going to do in the moment when someone says, hey, Todd, do you want some chocolate cake? And if I'm on this health kick that I'm trying to like drop this 7 lbs around my waist, then just thinking about that ahead of time. And it's not going to be, because what I probably normally do, like, oh, it looks really good. Ooh, I don't know.
Right. Maybe I'll just have a bite.
Maybe a bite, exactly. Instead, it's just going to be a definitive, no thanks.
Yes.
And it just greases the slide for us in our own heads. We don't need to think about it. It's just there for us.
I love this.
And scripting your setbacks can happen we can do it in so many parts of our life. Like, so when I'm working with a professional athlete, there's a lot of times where there's tons of trash talk that's going on the field of play.
Sure.
And sometimes people can be going through very sensitive parts of their times in their life.
Yeah.
We need to think that stuff through so that they don't cost their team a penalty, which then costs them the game or something like that. But the same thing happens in business. What are you going to do when the deal that you thought was the sure thing that was going to be closing doesn't happen? What are you going to do?
What are you going to do when you want to put that video out or that blog post or the book proposal and you get rejected or criticized or whatever?
Because it will happen.
Yes.
It will happen.
Yes.
Absolutely it will. And it's, what am I going to feel?
Yeah.
So it's not just the doing part. What am I going to feel as well?
Yeah.
What am I going to see? Who am I going to call?
Yes.
Do I have a support system around me?
Yes.
And make it just like that. Don't think about it. Just do it. That's what the power of doing the trigger goals is as well. Just have my Lululemon pants laying out for me so I don't have to think about it too much.
Right.
Just have them staring me in the face. But scripting your setbacks is exceptionally powerful. Everyone talks about, positive thinking, but really there's a lot more power in actually thinking through, the challenges. Because if we think that life is one big Pollyanna episode, it's just not. And we would talk about it in the context of it's just mental weakness, because I talk about mental toughness so much. Sure. Mental toughness is knowing what to do when things aren't going well.
Yeah. I love, or even like scripting your setbacks, that, it just opens up this whole, like so many file folders I feel like we could go down. I know, even when, especially because I know eating and being healthy and taking care of your body, it's something I feel like all of us strive for. And there's always kind of a different level and something we're experimenting with. Again, back to this detox, just because it was recent.
Yeah.
I was traveling and going to speak at a seminar right in the midst of like kind of one of the most intense parts of it. And it was 14 days long. And so in the idea of scripting setbacks, I planned out all my meals. I knew I was going to be on the plane. I brought my snack, I planned everything out so that I wouldn't be stuck in a hotel room going like, what am I going to eat? I want to kill myself. And then a cheeseburger comes, or, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's in those moments of weakness when we usually make the decision that takes us away from really the goals that we're trying to go after.
Yes.
And this gets to the other point of, we're expending willpower throughout our entire day. So if we're waiting to the end of day and expecting ourselves to follow through on a whole bunch of change, it's treating ourselves, very poorly, really.
Yeah.
Because we should be front loading our day with all the change that we're trying to do. So,
Todd, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time out today. I know you have a new baby girl in your life.
Yes.
And she is beautiful. I love Molly, and obviously I love your wife, Val. She's amazing too.
Thank you so much.
So I really appreciate you being here with all of us and sharing this incredible knowledge. I feel like people are going to just freak out. I love it. It just helps me out, since we had that conversation years ago. So thank you.
Well, it was awesome.
So now Todd and I have a challenge for you. So take a look in your own life. When you're trying to create change, do you have an owl brain or a wow brain? And obviously we both have both, but where do you tend to go most often? And if you've been having a hard time trying to make any kind of change recently, which one of the 5 steps do you feel will help you the most? Tell us all about it in the comments below. Now, as always, the best conversations happen after the episode over at marieforleo.com, so go there and leave a comment now. Did you like this video? If so, subscribe and share it with your friends. And if you want even more great resources to create a business and life that you love, plus some personal insights from me that I only talk about in email, get those sweet buns over to marieforleo.com and sign up for email updates. Stay on your game and keep going for your dreams because the world needs that special gift that only you have. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Marie TV. Do you want time to have an hour plane on the highway to hell?
Yeah.
We've got a dead leaf. I'm gonna try to get it in one take. Might not happen, but we gotta start somewhere.